in the name. The Republic of India has two principal short names, each of which is historically significant: India and Bharat. A third name, Hindustan, is sometimes an alternative name for the region comprising most of the modern Indian states of the Indian subcontinent when Indians speak amongst themselves. The usage of Bharat, Hindustan or India depends on the context and the language of conversation. Now look at this. Bharat, the name for India in several Indian languages, is derived from King Dushyant's son Bharat. At first, the name Bharat referred only to the western part of the Gangetic Valley, but was later more broadly applied to the Indian subcontinent, and the region of Greater India as well was named India. Now, the name India is originally derived from the name of the river Sindhu, which is Indus, India, and has been in the use in the Greece since Herodotus, 5th century BC. The term appeared in Old English as early as 9th century and re-emerged in modern English in the 17th century. Now, Hindustan is the third name of the Republic of India. This name was popular during Mughal rule. Hindu term was given by the Persians for the people living around the Sindhu river, Indus river once again. Marathas also used to call it the land of Hindus. The word Hindustan is also used in Sare Jahan Se Acha, the patriotic Urdu poem written by Allama Iqbal. So all these things put together, if you take a look at it, are faces of the same coin. What should be the name of the country? It's not just a topic of debate or discussion. In fact, the same question echoed in the chambers of the Constituent Assembly back in 1949. In this show, we bring you the excerpts, the debate that happened in the September of 1949, that riveting piece of communication that happened to and fro, what should be the name, whether it should be India, whether it should be Bharat or both, Jambu Dweep, and going back into the history, the genesis of the name. All those things were discussed threadbare by the then Constituent Assembly members, and they were the founding fathers of the New India's, the independent India's constitution also. So before that also, if we take a look at the debate that is ongoing now, why the hullabaloo? Why the situation when, there are political ramifications of choosing a particular name? Well, that also suggests something, that the effort, the history, the kind of pointers, the kind of reasoning that was given to give India the name Bharat or India, that is also something pretty interesting. Mohan Bhagwat, a few days ago, the RSS chief, mentioned about usage of the name Bharat now onwards. Let's listen in.
हम सब लोग इंडिया शब्द का उपयोग करना छोड़ दें और भारत शब्द का उपयोग करना प्रारंभ करें। कभी कभी अंग्रेजी जानने वालों के सामने हमको बोलना पड़ता है, तो भाषा के प्रवाह में ही इंडिया आ जाता है, क्योंकि उनको समझना चाहिए, कोई जरूरत नहीं है। जो विशेष नाम होते हैं उसका भाषांतर नहीं किया जाता, दुनिया में कहीं नहीं करते। ऐसे हमारा भारत देश है, सदियों से उसका नाम है, जो असतो मा सद्गमय, तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय, मृत्योर्मा अमृतम गमय की यात्रा करता है, तेज की तरफ जाता है, प्रकाश में रत रहता है, ज्ञान में रत रहता है, वो हमारा देश है। उसका नाम भारत है, तो दुनिया में कहीं भी जाएगा तो वो भारत ही रहना चाहिए। तो हम बोलने में, लिखने में सर्वत्र भारत कहे। किसी को समझने में नहीं आया, चिंता न करे, उसको जरूरत है तो वो समझ लेगा। हमको जरूरत नहीं है सबको समझाने की, हम अपने आप में समर्थ है, स्वतंत्र है। आज दुनिया को हमारी जरूरत है, बिना दुनिया हम चल सकते हैं, दुनिया हमारे बिना नहीं चल सकती।
So there you heard it. The RSS chief Mohan Bhagwat also mentioning that आने वाले समय में, आने वाले टाइम में हमें भारत का इस्तेमाल संबोधन भारत से करना है. This is something that has become pretty clear now, especially if you take a look at the invitation that has been sent out to the dignitaries who are attending the G20 summit. But today we will go back in time. We will go back not the pre-colonial era, but 1949, exactly 75 years ago, when India had got freedom in 1947, and the Constituent Assembly was mulling on the Constitution of India. B.R. Ambedkar was leading that team. Well, Manashwi Thapar is joining us on the broadcast. Noted lawyer there. Manashwi, always a pleasure to speak to you, always a pleasure to learn from you. I was going through, the 1949 transcript of the exchanges that happened in the Constituent Assembly, the September of 1949. First of all, I was, happily surprised to look at the language, the way they would disagree, the way they would counter each one's point. There were so many aspects, Manashwi, at that time, which clearly show that a lot of thought was given as far as the naming of the country. किसे पहले आना चाहिए, भारत पहले होगा या इंडिया पहले होगा, इंडिया पहले होगा या भारत होगा, ब्रिटिश का कितना इन्फ्लुएंस है. All those aspects were kept in mind. Looking at that era, Manashwi, I'm sure in the law schools also this is being taught as a lesson, maybe apart from the speech that Jawaharlal Nehru gave on the independence, eve of independence. How do you see this this aspect of Indian constitution, this aspect of Indian polity, and later on we delve deep?
See, this particular name changing thing or name discussion thing, this is a debate which is not at all required. India has two names, India and Bharat. Bharat has another name, which is India, and that is how we all know about it. India, which is Bharat, Bharat, what is India? That is what we know about it. But this debate does not have any depth out of it. It is just a political debate. It's a very good politically optical debate of creating India versus Bharat. There cannot be any India versus Bharat. There is a name, there is a brand name, there is a global understanding of what Bharat or India is all about, and we are known as Indians. We would not be known as any other name. So this is basically a debate just to have, since there is a bloc alliance known as India, to counter that a political party, BJP, which is a very strong party, has the numbers. They want to have a discourse out of it. But this discourse, does it contain any kind of depth? Does it contain any kind of a constitutional mandate? Does it contain any kind of name changer? That is not going to happen. India was a strong country. India is very strong. The future is of India. That cannot be changed, or by changing the name or creating a bigger brand name of Bharat and diluting India's name, we will not get a bigger brand value as a global acumen value of our country. We are a strong country because of our Indians, our citizens of this nation, the great citizens of this nation. So this is just a politically optical discussion wise, because this will not contain any kind of depth out of it. This will have a debate out of it. कौन सा नाम बेटर है? नाम का बेटर कोई, ये बच्चा थोड़ी पैदा हो रहा है जिसका नाम आपको ग्रहों के हिसाब से करना है. ये तो देश है. And after 75 years of independence, you want to go back to 1949 and have a discussion on names. What did our ancestors did? They did their job. They were there. The job was given to them कि नाम क्या रखना है. The name would be India or Bharat, and we had a very good debate. We had debate for hours and hours and days कि हमारा नाम क्या, why, how would a new country would be named? A new country was formed, named as Pakistan. उन्होंने decide किया वो पाकिस्तान रहेंगे. एक आधे part को East Pakistan का, and we decided we'll be known as India and Bharat both. So there is no debate out of it. And a job was given in 1949 to our ancestors. They had done a great job. And now, since now I am in power, this is a batch of 2023, we feel we need to change the name because it is politically correct, because some other person who's in opposition have decided that we'll use it in India. So this is laughable.
Right, Manasi. You're right. When it comes to the name, once again, what's wrong with the name? The point that you are making, I agree to it. Let's hear it also from Professor Chambi Puranik, who joins us. Professor Puranik, now, if you once again referring back to the ancient times, if I may say so, as far as the time when India had not been known by any other name, India, Bharat. That was not the debate at that time. Upanishads and the great ancient books, Mahabharata too at times, as I have been reading about it, mentioned Bharat in some way or the other. Vishnu Puran mentioned it, Brahma Puran mentioned it. Talking about the mention of Puranas, what we are showing on the screen also, the significance of the name and the modern aspect of it, is there any conflict, or is a conflict bound to happen when we talk about a term, a name from age-old traditions to the modern times?
Well, first of all, I mean, I feel really, sad that people are making controversy out of nothing, from small issue like this. But as a teacher, I have been teaching for the last 40 years. Now that we are discussing whether India should be known as Bharat or India, like that. I think this controversy itself is very superficial, because the historical context which you mentioned, and also the earlier, the spirit of the Constituent Assembly debates that we have gone through, and also people who have participated, how to name India, the nomenclature. I think, there is nothing wrong in calling India as Bharat or Bharat as India. I have been teaching. And in every teaching, we have always included the roots of our country and the kind of tradition that we have inherited. And, for example, other than English, when you speak about India, we say Bharat, Bharat Mata ki Jai, we say. And also, I think it's such a commonly accepted thing, Instead of calling father, we call him Pitru. I mean, that doesn't mean that we are insulting fatherhood or the kind of, family head being called as father. So I think, this, as you mentioned, that political mileage, especially the new alliance, India alliance, they want to make use of this. Second thing is, Mr. Rahul Gandhi's Bharat Jodo Yatra. What is it? What does it mean? Throughout India, he has called it as Bharat Jodo Yatra. Only now he says India Jodega. They have understood that there is likelihood of India also being called as Bharat officially also. I think, that should be, this is the time now to just rule out all such irrelevant and very superficial, inconsequential controversies permanently forever. I think India, that is Bharat. I think both should be used, as we have been using in the debates and lectures in our classrooms and all that. I think, everybody will be proud. There is nothing, mean or low kind of perception or estimation of our country's pride and all that. India that is Bharat. So I think, that particular context, I don't mind President calling India as Bharat, and President of India, Bharat President. He has invited. There is nothing wrong. G20 will be very happy. They are going to see the cultural and heritage traditions of India in their visit, and also they are all appreciating. India is appreciated not only because of its present growth or in terms of science and technology, but also our past. I think, whenever our past is related or cited, that is going to be Bharat only, not India. India is a recent kind of nomenclature the British have given. And historically, many things have happened. We call Bengaluru now, instead of calling Bangalore, the Chennai, Madras, they call it a Chennai now. Then why do you call Chennai? What is the meaning of Chennai? They have a tradition of Tamil culture, heritage and all that. So
Professor Puranik, much appreciated your inputs. Obviously, it reminds me of my English literature days, Sudha, back in Delhi University when I was in second year. And we had Virginia Woolf's book, A Room of One's Own. It was primarily delving on the concept of feminism, but the concept of space and time, the way she would jump ages and years to narrate the story. That way also, this particular debate, I believe, and that's where you come in, I would say, going back in time now, what Professor Puranik mentions, what Manasvi mentions is something which is very recent, I would say. Even the post-colonial literature, the post-colonial times that we have seen, I would say call it very recent. But going beyond that, when we talk about Bharat as Jambu Dweep, Bharat, जब हम बात करते हैं, जब एक अलग ही संस्कृति और सभ्यता जो what we talk about, उस समय से how relevant is that Bharat till date and how are we still imbibing it, or is there any connect to it?
Well, you spoke about Virginia Woolf, and I think in the context, Pankaj, I would like to quote Shakespeare, what's in a name?
What's in a name?
You know,
Absolutely.
the point is that both are important. I think, as I understand it, Bharata, Bharatakhande, Jambudvipe, when we do any kind of a puja, archana, we start our prayers, we take a sankalpa, which is basically so that, the blessings of all the gods or all the angels, as it were, for lack of any other word, devta, who are around the precincts of the puja, so that the puja is blessed. So when we say Jambudvipe, Bharatakhande, we obviously are referring it to, Bharata, the son of Dushyanta, Ishvaku clan, and and Jambudvipa being the area where we all live. But interestingly, the first name of where we live was Meluha, and I think Amish Tripathi wrote a novel around it, referring to Meluha. But having said that, if you look at the broader distinction, Pankaj, then it is obviously about that Bharat is more about a socio-religious kind of reference. And I think India is more about the geographical area that we are referring to. So that is, it's almost like Japan and Nippon. There are two names of one country. But in our context, and see that. You talk about pre-colonial, post-colonial, ancient times, at a time when even Gandhara, that is of Afghanistan, was part of what is called Akhanda Bharat. I'm not talking about the Akhanda Bharat today, please, Pankaj.
Yes, no,
we are not. But we have to be very clear. But I think it is more about socio-cultural, religious, and the other is very, very geographical. Nehru, for instance, he was also mulling over this, and while he was writing Discovery of India, he did not know which to use. But when we spoke about 1949, the Constituent Assembly, when it actually assembled again, you will be very surprised that the third alternative found no mention, and that being Hindustan. So therefore, today also, when you see, it is more about people who belong to that era in North India who will say Hindustan. I mean, Allama Iqbal, who can forget Sare Jahan se acha Hindustan hamara. The thing is that, but today it's not used so much. I mean, because they said India, that is Bharat. So I think that because Bharat is more cultural religious, I think that Mohan Bhagwatji is insisting on it. But I don't see that any name change is going to really alter things. But of course, it will have very serious ramifications, because it's about it's about a lot of change, and those changes. It's also not just about politics; it's about policy and polity.
Right.
And there it is that we will be floundering, Pankaj.
Absolutely, Sudha. What you mentioned obviously also brings us to this very thought that changing the name changes the sentiment. It's not that name changes are something new to to the recent India. We have seen names being changed of smaller places, historical places. But as far as the name change of the country is concerned, again, the way we have reached till here, through the Constitution, through the Constituent Assembly, and the way it was debated in the Parliament at that time in the Constituent Assembly, obviously sets a lot of precedent for today's generation politicians to follow. Ravi Bhatt now joins us on the show, historian by profession, and I believe by choice also, because Mr. Bhatt, it's a pleasure to speak to you.
The same is here. Same is here.
I have been reading about you, your work and your writings, but it's a pleasure to have you on the show. But today we are trying to keep politics out of it. Why so? I know invariably it will come in, but again we are trying to touch upon the very notion of India, Bharat, Hindustan, whatever we may call it. How we come to such a scenario? भारत का चुनाव कैसे हुआ? क्या हिस्ट्री रही है भारत की? पर्शियंस ने हिंदू शब्द दिया, then it became Hindustan. Mughals also referred to as Hindustan. Obviously, I understand that no one put a temple on our gun saying कि हमें इंडिया ही अपना नाम रखना है. So please help us understand. I mean, who else better than you?
That's something, when it comes to the game of the name, we have to see everything not only the history, but we have to peep into the mythology also, legends also, and our culture also, our culture roots also. Because, the only history cannot explain it, that's when we talk about the name of Bharat. As we understand, there are a few historians, they dispute, they say that there has never been, the entire country as a Bharatvarsh. They try to suggest, I may not agree with them, but they say, but see, the name of any country, any individual, any geographical area is invariably depends on the culture root of that particular, the place or person. So the same is with the India also. In India, as we understand, when we go back to our Rig Vedas, even Rig Vedas, there was a tribe is mentioned as Bhartas. Number one. Number two, again, you go back, like you see, there was when we see the Ramayana, in the Ramayana also, Bharat was the son of the Dashrath. Then again, we come back, even in the Magad, there was there was a king. His name was Indrush, something of, I'm missing that exact name. In his kingdom also, there was a rishi. His name was Bharat. Then even in Jain text also, you'll find the Rishabdev, the first Tirthankar, who was in Ayodhya, called it a Fadabat Ayodhya, was his son. His name was also Mahayogi Bharat. So we find, in so many places we find the references. And I think most of the people will agree with us that our cultural roots, they influence us more rather than anything else. So, and culture comes from where it comes from our scriptures, it comes from our beliefs, our legends. So we find in a number of places we find the reference of Bharat. So it's not a surprise that this area, this Indian subcontinent, was identified as Bharat or Bharatvarsh. Now, when it comes to the word India, as everyone knows it, basically the Greeks were there. They identified as the Indus River. So they call first it was the Indus, or call it an Indus Valley civilization, also from Indica, and then they started referring as India. And even in the British English also, you'll find early in the 7th century, it was in Old English, it was mentioned India. Then the 9th century also, and then all of a sudden, in the 16th century, the word India, they started using it. So, I think the best explanation will be that the people coming from, and the same is true for the Hindustan also. I don't have to repeat. Everyone knows about how during the Mughal period, they started calling Hindustan Persian. The best explanation is the people, different people using different languages, especially the invaders. They, for their convenience sake, they started modifying our country by different names. As we understand, Ambedkar was the first person who said, no, this name should be the Bharat. And he was supported by others also. But then the Kamlapat Tripathi was there. Kamlapat Tripathi, he tried to struck midway. He said, let us use India, that is Bharat. So that's how it has come.
Absolutely. Mr. Bhatt, stay with us. Manasvi, obviously, Mr. Bhatt has brought in the aspect of the Constituent Assembly members of that time, Kamlapati Tripathi, Kallur Subbarao, and M.V. Kamath, all of them. Kamlapati Tripathi, as Mr. Bhatt mentioned, said that by the inclusion of the word Bharat and by accepting it, we shall be able to give to this country a form and to give back to its lost soul, and we shall be able to protect it also. But obviously, as the proceeding went on, the differences, the healthy conversation that happened, once again, if we look at it from, today's point of view, how easy or difficult do you find it to be done?
I feel it's very interesting. Now, if we go back to 1949, this debate was there for 2 days, 17th November 1949, and it was completed on 18th November 1949.
Absolutely.
And it was a debate, and the debate had people who were for the name Bharat and for the name India, and it was a healthy debate, and everyone had their own ideas of discussion. And then the debate concluded with the voting, wherein majority of members voted that India's name would be India and Bharat would be also known as India, but we name it all our institutions, the Constitution, the Supreme Court of not Bharat but India. We'll name it that way, and that's how the debate was concluded and rested and accepted by all the members. Now coming to the present day, 2023. Right. What happened? Now, instead, even if you feel that Bharatvarsh was a bigger name, a better name, a biggest significance for the world, that's right. You should have that opinion after 75 years, and you are right to have that opinion. Now, what do? You don't directly put an invitation saying Republic of Bharat. You have a healthy discussion. That 75 years we were fooled by our ancestors. They did a great historical mistake by naming India as India and not as Bharat, and let's have a discussion, let's have a debate. There would be people who would be for Bharat because they are in majority. It could be on the contrary side that Bharat would be the new name for India, and everything, all the institutions would be named as India. But where is that discussion or debate? What happened? Suddenly, on the date of 5th September, we come across a tweet by one of the ministers saying that Republic of Bharat. And then we all debate, we bring our history books back, we bring our Constituent Assembly back, and today we want to discuss on it, on deliberation, that Bharat acha hai ke India acha hai. While 51 said that India ka naam India hona chahiye, 38 members said Bharat hona chahiye, and that is how the debate concluded. And now you want to reignite that debate, now you want to reignite that thought process. You are welcome to do it in a democracy, but you don't just suddenly print an invitation saying that aaj se hum Bharat hai.
Right.
कोई प्रॉब्लम नहीं है, तो नाम हमारा, पर कंफ्यूजन क्यों क्रिएट करना? My point is, if our ancestors gave a great lesson to us that we can deliberate, discuss, and debate on contrary different ideas, and we can vote for it. Right. And that's before we were a democracy. That's before the first Constitution of India. That's in 1949. After that, the Constitution of India came up. Now we have a Constitution of India. Now we know the functioning of Parliament. Now it's a healthy democracy, the most vibrant democracy of the world. Why don't we debate? Why don't we discuss on this idea that now we'll be known as Bharat? Why don't we do that?
Right. Professor Puranik, obviously Manaswi's point of view, much appreciated, because the context, when we talk about suddenly if the information comes out that there is a name change, probable name change, or we are planning to do it differently, fine, good enough. The context part, at times gets amiss. And also, I would like to bring to your notice, Professor Puranik, that Ambedkar at that time was one person who, in this 48-hour-long debate, only 2 days debate, he was saying कि hangama क्यों है बरपा? Why so much noise over it? Why this eloquence? Is it necessary? We have other things to do, obviously. In your learned opinion, Professor Puranik, today, do we have an Ambedkar amongst us who would look at it at the bigger picture and say that, is this really necessary at this point of time? And if so, then why not do it once and for all?
I think, I would agree with your suggestion that why not we do it once and for all. That could be a better one. And technically, President of India is entitled to use India. That is President of India, like that. So instead of that, she should have used both India and Bharat. Perhaps that would have, would not have created this kind of controversy, that very superficial controversy that the political party, especially Congress party, is doing. And when we think of India, we always think of Bharat only. There is nothing different from that. So I think I agree with you that it's better to put an end to this kind of superficial or irrelevant controversy, because we have bigger issues to address, and also to impress the whole world that India is on the right path, both economically and development perspective and all that. So that angle, I think, there is need for some kind of clarification technically. But the spirit wise, the soul of India is soul of Bharat only. So I think, perhaps that kind of debate. But unfortunately, as you said, there is no eminent person like knowledgeable person like Dr. B.R. Ambedkar. But the memory of Dr. Ambedkar and the kind of suggestions and kind of explanation he has given at length in the Constituent Assembly, I think it will be a good guide to cool out and see that India, that is Bharat, is same, one and the same and all that. I think that spirit would be better from the point of view of whatever the unity and the kind of cohesive Bharat or one nation that we are thinking of. One nation means it is India only. Bharat means India only. I don't think people are worried about it. People will be laughing at it. The Congress party has brought out this controversy. Perhaps it will be a big setback for it, because Bharat Jodo Yatra itself was based on that spirit of Bharat or India. I think these are some of the things that whenever you make a criticism, you must also know that there is going to be something else against you also. Because the name Bharat, I don't think anybody will disagree with it. Because that's what we have been teaching. In our classrooms, we have always taught it. But for purpose of technicality, we always use it India. That's acceptable.
Frame of reference, yes. But Ravi Bhatt Sahab, I will still stay with what happened in 1949 and just wanted to learn from you. 1949, there is a man called B.R. Ambedkar at the helm of affairs, at the center of that Constituent Assembly debate on Bharat or India. But this man, obviously, B.R. Ambedkar, had his task cut out. I'm reading out what he had to say. He said, "I do not understand the purpose of it. It may be well interesting in some other place. My friend accepts the word Bharat. There ought to be some sense of proportion in view of the limited time." But at that time, the nascent India, which was just independent from the clutches of British, what key work must have been lined up at that time? We can think of a lot of things, but from the historical point of view, what were events of more pressing importance that Mr. Ambedkar must have been referring to at that time?
See, that's very clear. I mean, that is what our life is like. We are always short of the time, and we know something is very important, but we invariably switch over the things which are the more priorities. I think Ambedkar also realized that time. Because Ambedkar was the one person, he probably realized that time that our culture can, unite India better than others. As we all understand, the India before independence was divided in different small kingdoms, principalities, and that was the reason that at the time of independence, when this option was given, whether those principalities or those kingdoms, they want to be part of India or Pakistan or want to be independent, they can take a decision. So that was a time that, that he can understand. He probably realized it, that culturally we have to unite all these, at least for people, not only the head of the state, not only the erstwhile rulers. So he suggested that it should be the Bharat. So you understand that because culture unites, language unites, the same way culture also unites. Our language can be different in India and different states, but culture is almost the same. So that unites, and Bharat represents the culture. So that is the reason probably he was emphasizing. But as we understand, there were more things to be decided. So he did not have enough time to dwell on that. So he hopped on the other thing, and which he did rightly. But even by a few sentences, his intention, his will to give the name Bharat to this country was more understandable than anything else. And I think still, I'll tell you, that still we require, I'm right now, I'm not speaking as a historian, but I'm speaking as an individual. The Bharat name should be there because that helps us in getting back to our roots.
Right, getting back to our roots is something. Manasvi, you wanted to make a point there. Please go ahead.
My only point of discussion is that we are already with our roots. Not that by name we'll come back to our roots. Our roots are already there. And when we refer ourselves as Indians, it's a united front, which as a country we all are. And as Bharat also, we are united. So that's why when we say Indian Ocean, and when we say the same thing in Hindi, it comes out with Bharat Mahasagar. And that's how India has been identified. And in a global context, it's India. In Indian context, when Indians speak, they also speak Bharat Mata Ki Jai. Lots of institutions are starting with the name Bharat, and that's how it is. The debate, which has already taken part in the past, does not make any sense as of now. While we have burning issues of 23, and those debates are not happening, and we are going back to a name changing process or a name discussing process. And obviously, let's have a third name also. The significance of Hindustan should also be there. Let's have a re-debate on things which are already settled. When a task was given to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel and B.R. Ambedkar, for example, a task was given to Sardar Vallabhbhai Patel to unify India. He did a great job. And suddenly some parts in the political domain say that that was a bad thing which happened against the country or against the kingdoms. We should need to rethink in 2040. There would be a rethought of that process maybe in the future. And Ambedkar ji was given the task of creating this constitution, and this constitution, B.R. Ambedkar listened to it, had a complete hearing of all those people who were for Bharat and for India, and he was not a dictator. And finally, a vote took place out of it. 51 people voted in the favor of India, and 38 people voted in the favor of Bharat, and it was settled. It did not continue for the third day also. It never continued in 1952, 53, or even 2021, 2022. Suddenly, this debate became a significant debate only in 23, and now we have all kinds of debate. Obviously, people would be in the favor of Bharat, people would be in the favor of India also. So the point here is, my problem comes here is, whoever is in the power will have the position in the future that let's go, whenever there is a difficulty in the country, whenever there is different kinds of problem in the country, let's go back to our history books and find some kind of significance which would be politically available to us and viable at that particular moment, and let's debate on that. That's not how a country should function. We have multiple issues in this country. We have multiple issues which we need to solve. In 2023 problems that we don't want to discuss. And now we are discussing on Bharat acha tha ki India acha hai. Now that does not make any sense. We have highest rate of unemployment which is happening in this country. We need to talk about that. We would not want to talk about that. And let's go. And right now, Delhi is the capital of India. Tomorrow, some other prime minister or some other people in power would say that historically, it should be Madhya Pradesh. They'll bring some kind of historical relevance. Historically, it should be the south of India, because that has always been out of control of most of the Mughal rulers. Or we can go back to Calcutta also, because British have started that. It is endless to debate on subjects which are already settled. You need to settle on things and move on. You can't be behind.
We get your point, Manasvi. We get your point, and obviously valid. So, Professor Puranik, obviously, there are certain issues, there are so many outstanding issues, and we were talking about finding Ambedkar in this time. What Manasvi has done, he basically has echoed the similar sentiments कि इस पर ज़्यादा समय नहीं व्यर्थ करते हुए और भी pressing issues हैं, उस पर ध्यान देते हैं. Your view on that?
I think, I agree with Manasvi that our focus should be on the current issues that India is facing. I mean, who made this controversy? When President of India has written an invitation using the term as Bharat, I think, that could have been accepted gracefully as a cultural kind of, upholding the spirit and the greatness of India and its tradition and all that. I think my best compromise would be, there is nothing wrong in making a debate. But right now, in the context in which we are speaking, I think it is considered as politically motivated. But more than beyond the political kind of biases or prejudices that we have, instead of making this as a controversy, as you said in your observation, that once and for all, we should put an end to this very superficial controversy, saying that you should always, my personal feeling is, as a teacher, I always taught like this: India, that is Bharat. Now, then you start this, because whenever you speak in your regional language, we don't say India, we say Bharat, Bharatvarsha. And as the other gentleman, constitutional expert, mentioned about it also. So that means I think there is a, let us face it, the President of India, in her proper wisdom or right judgment, she has used it. There is nothing wrong in it. We should be proud of it also.
Right.
But let us not make a controversy of this, saying that the country is hijacked by one group of people or one set of people who are based on Hindutva, something like that. I think it's stretching it too far. Better we resolve it, and we should accept it that India means Bharat, Bharat means India. Both are officially they want to bring in. There is nothing wrong. Let there be a debate on that. I don't think majority people would oppose it also, because Bharat Jodo has been the slogan of rejuvenating Congress, which has lost power. So if they can think of that kind of thing, they also should accept if these are new suggestions that have come also. Controversies will be there always.
Controversies will always be there, definitely. So is life. So is life. That what is present today will be history tomorrow, and obviously. Ravi Bhatt Saab, final words from you. How would history look at this revival of the debate of Bharat and India?
Come again?
How would history remember this? How would India, how would Bharat see this kind of debate coming up again after 75 years down the line?
See, that's I said that even the co-panelists, they made a very brilliant, statements, and I agree with all of them that we should not waste our time. There are better issues. But
there you heard it from the historians.
Since your channel had decided to discuss this issue, so it's better that we should limit ourselves to this topic only, whether Bharat or India. Because you have decided. Had you asked me before the discussion, I agree with them. There are more issues to discuss. But if you've decided to discuss on this channel, I'll say name matters a lot. See, no one keeps the name of his son like a Shatan Singh. Everyone will say, no, bhaiya, they will always keep a better name, which sounds better. Veer Singh will keep the name. Har Singh will not keep the name of our son. So, when it comes to the naming a nation, we should, if choice is given between these two, I think Bharat should be there. And as I agree with my co-panelists, there are better things to discuss. But right now we are discussing whether India or whether Bharat. Then my vote is for the Bharat.
Right. Right. Obviously, gentlemen, on this note, we will end this, I wouldn't call it a debate, rather I would call it a discussion, a healthy discussion. Manasvi, Professor Puranik and Ravi Bhatt Saab, thank you so much. And also, why I said in the beginning that it's a debate which will enlighten people, because obviously to reflect upon history, it is important. And as it will happen, as fate would have it, today is Teachers' Day also. Where we wish all our teachers very happy Teachers' Day. And also, as far as the learnings from the history is concerned, as far as the history of India is concerned, obviously looking back 75 years, 700 years or 7,500 years, it all remains through perspective, through history, and obviously the naming or the renaming of Bharat, of India, of Hindustan, all these aspects obviously have been dealt with in the past, and if done with context, if done with references and with consultations, then definitely there is a due process for it as well. Thank you so much for watching this broadcast. And talking about India, Bharat or Hindustan, well, it doesn't make a difference here, because the next special documentary that we are bringing up for you is about desertification. The desert is coming closer to the national capital, Delhi, the national capital of India, Bharat, Hindustan. Despite a Supreme Court ban 14 years ago, large-scale mining continues unabated in the Aravallis, India's oldest mountain range. The desertification of the hills has triggered health issues in Rajasthan and the national capital region. This special documentary, Killing the Aravallis, tells you what is going on and what is the fallout of this incessant mining that is going on. Don't go anywhere. Watch this special show after the break.
This is Gurugram, a fast-growing satellite city of the national capital. High-rises dot its affluent neighborhoods. It is the darling of real estate giants in northern India. Gurugram is like every other swanky Indian city, embracing development at lightning speed. But such development always comes with a hefty price.
Something like Hanuman, going away with the hill. This is what was happening.
It is going to be disastrous for Northwest India in terms of our water security, in terms of the climate change that is happening, in terms of our groundwater, in terms of pollution.
Aravallis have two major kind of threats. One is real estate and the other is mining.